G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of this massive UNIMOG build here behind me. Now, thinking back on this thing, this project, it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, let's go. There's not a man that I fear. There's nobody here that can stop.
Thinking back to the beginning, which was almost 12 months ago now, to undertake a project like this and everything we've gone through, you know, to think back at that point and to know what was to come, it scares the shit out of me. But like any project, you know, you just kind of chip away at it one bit at a time, and it's not as daunting. But we'll touch on that throughout this episode, you know, the mindset going through this whole build here. Now, I'm stoked with where it's at right now. As you can see there behind me, I think it looks absolutely amazing. I'm really happy, but at the end of the last episode, I wasn't so happy. I was broken down on the side of the road. Losing power. And I had an air and fuel issue. Now, I knew that's what it was, but there are a few things that it could have been. There's a T-piece in the fuel line that goes from the fuel tank to the injector pump. And then it's got a T that goes up to like a breather up in the engine block. I had to replace that plastic fitting. So I figured that could have been the issue. It's sucking in the air there somehow. There was that. There was a possibility that I'd done some overspray on the fuel line breather, and it was blocked. All these things running through my head, and it comes back to this glass casing, which is like a primer pump. You can see the little spring in the. Can you guys see that? The little spring in the bottom there. These things and that O-ring there on top. This is your one of your filters. And the O-ring tends to get really brittle and then it can suck in air. And so I knew that and I kept checking. I'm like, no, it's not that. And I'd go back through everything else, try and work out what it was, come back to this thing and it must be this, it's not that. All the mechanics out there are gonna be shaking their head right now. The thing that it was I had to bleed the lines, I had to bleed those fuel lines. And the way to do that is these Unimogs have a twin fuel filter system. And then this is after that. You've got these little screw valves on the top. I'll show you here now. These screw valves here, you just have to undo them and then prime this bulb, and it just basically squirts fuel and air out. You prime that until you get a nice stream of just fuel, no air, and then you crack them back up, make them tight. That's it, that's all it was. So problem fixed and onto the rest of the build. So in this episode, we're going to be fabricating the brackets and installing the new Onyx headlights, LED headlights. They've made such a big difference. We're going to be installing the 20,000 pound 24 volt Sabre winch, building this rack system to go up to the top. So scrub rails, the roof rack, the ladders up the side, mounting the 50-inch light bar up there, the Onyx light bar, and then also building the canopy for the back of this truck, which is a showpiece, and then rewiring the whole truck. Now that was a monster of a job, rewiring a truck like this, and also building the overhead console inside, wiring that up to all my accessories mounted up there in the console. I'll show you guys exactly how I did all of that. So we've got a big episode ahead. Let's rip in. So when I took on this project, I think my excitement got in the way of logic. I'm already so busy filming and editing my usual adventure series, let alone having a build like this to complete. To be honest, I think I was tricking myself. Thinking of all the major jobs that I'd mostly outsource, like the tray and canopy, the electrics, maybe a full wrap, and forgetting about all the fiddly little jobs in between that really bring a build like this together. Luckily, I do have good mates that were keen to help along the way, but there are still hundreds of jobs in between the major ones to bring this thing together. The tyres are 395/85 R20s mounted on Hutchinson beadlocks. Once I pulled the 80 kilo run flats out of each tyre, there was nothing to push the bead out to seat against the rim. So basically, I couldn't get air to stay in the tyre. I had a trick up my sleeve, one that probably wouldn't pass workplace health and safety, but a good one to teach my son and for everyone to know out there when you're in remote parts of Northern Australia. Take the valve out, a little bit of start you bastard, a lighter, and a long stick. Now you have to move quick to blast that air in with a high output compressor, Then get the valve back in and top it up. I didn't teach you this. Please be safe at home. Now changing these tyres, like everything on this truck, is difficult. You need bigger tools. More money. And each wheel weighs about 200 kilos. But there's a trick for everything. I'd hate to have to learn this stuff on a beach in Cape York. Speaking of Cape York, I've spent a lot of time in remote Northern Australia, and the point where you need to pack up camp and move is usually based around running out of fresh water, so a good water tank is crucial. Uniden have come up with a great tank that utilises some dead space under the tray. It's 165 litres and it's actually priced reasonably. It's a bitch though. I think the tray is actually meant to come off for this install, but Cameron and I just all but unbolted it and then tilted it up with a winch and some pulley rings. Then of course the MOG Central exhaust is in the way. Yes, be advised, like other things, these two products are not compatible, but with a grinder and a welder, we made it work. Back to all the little jobs. So the whole underbody and the tray is getting a car builder's TXT coating. So it's getting a heavy duty degreaser, then a gurney, and a wire wheel where necessary on the tanks and stuff. Another job I wasn't planning, but I'm so glad I did it. Then wiring up the Sabre 20,000 pound winch through an isolator, and boy is this thing smooth and quiet. So just when you think you're sort of putting everything back together and finishing up the project, I'm pulling everything apart again, which is kind of disappointing but exciting at the same time because I'm wiring the truck, so this is kind of like the last time everything's going to be pulled apart. Pulling the dash apart right now to get an accessory wire like an ignition trigger for things like the stereo, the UHF. Hang on, my phone's ringing. Alright, sorry about that. That was Adam from Shervy Power Products, sort of guiding me through. They're sending me things like the 12 to 24 to 12 volt converter. We're going to go 2 of those now, and I'm just picking his brain about where to run the earth from those, whether it has to go right back to the battery or just to a good ground, and they're just an amazing source of knowledge. So he was just giving me some pointers. So what we're doing here is getting the accessory wire, like I say, from the ignition to run back to these 24 to 12 volt converters. So everything that comes out of the 24 to 12 volt converter, which is going to be the UHF, the stereo and all that stuff on the roof, will be triggered by the ignition, which is great. So we're pulling everything apart, but I have fit the headlights, which look epic. I'll show you those. I haven't wired them up yet, but they're in. That's them there. So I've gone dual Onyx 7-inch headlights, which have a high and low beam. So I've got 2 of them on each side, and had all this laser cut, these covers and the actual mounting plates and everything behind. I drew them up and had the team at Metalmorphic here on the Sunshine Coast. Metalmorphic laser, the legends there, laser cut these for me in a couple of days and went and picked them up, and everything fit perfectly there yesterday. Very finicky getting your hands in here to fit it all, especially this side with the radiator and the intercooler, but I've had to undo these bolts, take the wings off, mount the lights and everything inside, mount the grill on the front, and then fit it all back in, and it's gone in nice. Now that's all fit with stainless steel bolts, which is the whole front bar. Everything I'm doing is stainless steel, unless it has to be high tensile, like the winch and everything. And now it's just a matter of wiring it all up. Wiring it all up. That was up there with the painting as one of the biggest jobs of the whole truck. A lot of people have had a go at wiring this rig over the last 35 years, and I wanted it all out and rerun so I'd know exactly what everything is and that it's safely fused. This was a new challenge for me, being 24 volt. It's the same concept obviously, but more power, and something I had to be aware of when powering all the different accessories. I took my time to plan it and draw it all out on a map, all the accessories, where the 12 volt or 24 volt was coming from, where it was fused, what trigger it needs. For example, the stereo needs 12 volt power. It also needs a 12 volt trigger from reverse and from the park lights, both of which are 24 volt. You have to think of all these things before you start running the wires. Then I wanted a nice, neat place for all the cab electrics to be mounted, a central spot out of the way. This meant building it all on a board, the fuse blocks, relays, 24 to 12 volt converters, everything, having it all but finished and then mounting it in the cab. Hey guys, the filming for this episode has been all over the place. I apologise. I've been wiring, which isn't really exciting stuff, so just capturing little snippets. I now have the whole switchboard nearly in. I need to get the earth bar, which Chevy Power Products up there at Solar and Sat in Bundaberg, shout out to those legends. They're posting that down to me, so I can fit basically like a negative board across here, which I can bring all of my negatives down from the ceiling and create a main earth there, back like a main ground back to the cab and the chassis itself. So I'm waiting on that, and then I can finish wiring that. But once that's pretty well done, I can't go any further now until I get this console done. So I want to show you guys what I'm doing here, how I'm doing it. I'm just winging it. I've done this stuff before, but I think when you're doing a new vehicle, it doesn't matter how many times you've done it, you're winging it. So this is what I'm doing. Alright, I've just got a scrap of 9mm ply here, and I've taken some rough measurements, done a bit of a grid, and now I'm just trying to hold this in place, hold a few of my accessories up here, like the stereo and the fuel gauge and that. So up here I'm going to have the stereo, which is also the reverse camera screen, but yeah, the stereo, the fuel gauge, some USB points to charge GoPros and stuff, because I'm also going to have a little pocket up in here, or quite a big pocket. So I can throw the like when I'm filming up north, I can throw the GoPro charger up in here and charge that directly. A light, this switch panel from Onyx Lights, all my lights are from Onyx, and there's a really cool switch panel which the fuse board is built into here. So all my lights here will light up, light bar, spotlights, side lights, reverse lights, all that stuff will go through here. And stereo speakers are going to mount up the back here as well. These Unimog's really tricky for where you're going to put your stereo speakers basically, and the ceiling's already quite low, so trying to be creative there to get sound on both sides of the cab. But anyway, this is what I'm doing. This is my rough template. It's going to sit a little bit higher than this here, but it's basically there like that. Forward a smidge. Right, we're about there. Now my stereo is going to mount up in there, and I'm going to build the face on a bit of an angle so the stereo angles down at me. I might shift that across, put the fuel gauge there next to it, and then all pocket right in front of me so there's nothing in my vision. And then along the side here we'll go switch panel, and then the UHF, which will then coil down, and I'll mount it here next to me somewhere, nice and easy. This unit and UHF, like you guys have probably seen before, you can mount the actual control center wherever you want. I could have put it down there with a switch panel, and then you've got an extension lead coming up to your handpiece. But I'm going to tuck it in here somewhere, and then just have my handpiece wherever, because the handpiece has all your controls on it anyway. Now this is the stuff I love doing. Actually, to be honest, I've loved the whole build, but being creative with timber, building things that make a space function better, I just love it. Especially having my son there with me, helping me but also doing his own thing, his own projects on the side as I work. Now, I've built the console out of 9mm ply, and once again using Car Builder's 4-way stretch carpet. This stuff has really impressed me. It's so easy to use and looks really, really good, the finished product. Now at this point, I'm doing huge hours on this truck. Long days, late nights, just really putting it in. I'm really missing being out there in the wilderness, chasing barramundi, learning about culture, hanging out with my mates up north. But this stuff's great too. This build was going to take me about 2 months. That was my plan. I know, crazy. But that's what I told myself and my wife. I actually keep telling myself, and I'm not sure why. When someone asks me, I'm like, yeah, it's close. I've just got like this and then, but I'm still going. All right, it is Chrissy Eve. The truck is very close to being finished. I can hear the kids running around out there on the grass with the dogs. And I'm wiring up this Speedo from Mog Central. So I've gone with, this is the old thing. This thing here, this piece of crap. And it's got so this was a GPS sensor unit. You had to have it on the dash here, and it wasn't super accurate. Maybe there was some dodgy wiring, but it used to turn off and on and say error and all sorts of stuff. Pain in the ass, that thing. I've gone with this from Mog Central. So you set this to the big 395 tyres. It's got the odometer, it's got a trip meter, way more accurate, and this is a hall sensor, so the cabling runs all the way back to the transmission. So that's what I'm fitting now. I've got wires going everywhere. I've got the multimeter out. If you're going to do this, make sure you got your multimeter so you can test, where to get power for the lights coming on, for the lights to come on the odometer, and to get a good ground and to get constant power and accessory power and all that stuff. Got to have a multimeter, but the truck's getting very close. The last thing now, really, for me, is making this dash look nice. Everything else, it's going pretty good. I've got one more issue with the reverse camera. I've got power getting to it. It picks up when I go into reverse. I've wired all that correctly, but there's no video being transmitted, which is a bit of an issue. So yeah, bit of an update there, guys. Merry Christmas to all of you. Probably won't watch this till after Christmas, but it's all go here. It's all go. The canopy, the boxes, the guards, all that gear that has really transformed this truck was fabricated by Mission Built, because these guys don't cut corners. Their gear is built for the punishment of Northern Australia, and my last canopy proved that. From the design stage through to the fabrication and the fit off, I've been involved. Now, I have to admit that the build has grown a lot from the actual original plan. My poor wife, each time I finish a stage, I come inside saying, well, that's pretty much done. And she's like, the truck, is it finished? No, the paint, or the electrics, or the exhaust, or the rack, and on and on and on. Now, the rack and bar work are one of those things I kind of added on. When you start researching other Unimog builds out there, it gets dangerous. I wanted a simple rack, just to mount Starlink and a big ass light bar, but I didn't want it mounted to the gutters, creating rust points. I also wanted brush rails to protect the windscreen and ladders to get up the top above the canopy, and because they look shit hot. So I built it in a way that they should all bolt together to support the rack, but still modular so I can remove parts if necessary. Maybe interview Granddad. No, don't tell me I haven't brushed my hair. The 50mm box section was something I hadn't seen used yet. It certainly presented a challenge because I couldn't bend it, but I think it suits the boxiness of the Unimog. The 50mm alley box section is definitely strong enough for the job, and although weight isn't an issue, it's a bit lighter than its steel cousin that will eventually cause rust issues in time. Alright, for connecting it, I used stainless nut certs to secure it to the truck, and then I put rubber matting between all the joints. And of course, Mission Built jumped in on the action too, with their up and coming aluminium master laying some beautiful TIG welds. Thanks Archie, and all the boys in there. Everyone jumped in and gave me a hand. All the alley was then sanded to 180 grit and prepped for paint. Alright, and with the primer, I'm using a, this is for the next coat, I'm using a 1.8 spray tip, or spray nozzle on the spray gun. Car builders come with a, when you buy their 2K product, it comes with a gun where you can buy the gun. This thing's brilliant. You know, if you're doing underbody, wheel arches, side steps, you know, any of that kind of stuff, this thing's really good. But you can't get that fan, you know, you can't really spray a nice wide fan. Because I'm doing the toolbox, or sorry, the toolboxes, but also the canopy. I've seen canopies done before where you can see the lines in it and it looks terrible. So I'm using my gravity fed gun to do the whole lot, and that way, using the same reducer, I'm going to be able to thin it down to about 10 or 15% and get that nice textured finish, like a nice powder coat looking finish, and without any lines in it. For the Car Builders TXT product, the 2K, I'm going to use a, where's that nozzle? A 2.5 nozzle, because I will be thinning it. But for the primer, I'm using a 1.8 nozzle. So this is the most boring part, but also the most critical part of the job. Like every job, your preparation, if you don't do this, you can put as many coats of paint on and do the best job of your spraying as you possibly can. And it's just going to peel off because you've done a shitty job of your prep. So I'm using wax and grease remover. I've already sanded all the aluminium back to 180 grit and blown it all out, given it a dust off with a rag. And now with quality gloves on, wax and grease remover and some paper towel. And I'm constantly wiping and then turning this over with fresh wax and grease remover, wiping the next part, so you're not just rubbing the same stuff back into it. All right, so everything, all the aluminium on the truck, everything here behind me, the canopy, the ladders, the rack, the guards, the boxes, the whole lot, I'm using a 2K primer, etch primer, epoxy primer in grey. And I'm also going to reduce that with down to about 30-40%. That's what I'm going to do right now. And then on top of that, so wet on wet, after, depends on this weather how it all goes, but after about an hour and a half or something, I'll then start spraying on the 2K, the TXT Car Builders product. That's also got a hardener with it, so it's a 2K product, which means it has a hardener, which means it goes super hard. So for this Unimog, out in the bush on those corrugated dirt tracks, you know, flicking up rocks, particularly the guards, they're going to cop a hammering. So that's why I've gone with the Car Builders, the 2K, because it has that hardener. The texture coating is great, but if it has a hardener in it, well, like a 2-part hardener, it's going to go even harder and be even more durable for what I'm going to put it through. So mixing up the primer right now. I always get a little bit stressed when I'm painting because like once you've mixed it, there's like a deadline, you know, everything's got to flow nicely. If you leave it too long, then you need to leave it overnight, give it all a sand the next day before you put the next coat on. And that's just more labor. So trying to get everything ready so that once I start, it all just flows. You know, come back over here, clean the gun. I've already got the paint prepped for the second coat. With the guards and boxes painted and looking epic, the rain sets in, so I take the time to find a way to secure it all to the underside of the tray. I tack weld in some 50 by 50 angle in sections, then I hold up the boxes and guards to drill out the holes in position. I think the strongest way to fix these is to bolt through, so now I have the positions, I can weld on nuts to the angles, then weld them in proper and paint it all up. Once again, all the aluminium gets sanded and cleaned with wax and grease remover, and then gets 2 coats of primer and a coating of the Car Builders TXT 2K until I'm happy with that finish. With this gravity-fed gun, I'm able to thin it down a bit and get that consistent powder coat finish, and I'm absolutely stoked with it. So the last thing to paint are these doors, and they're going to be a bit less forgiving. I've chosen to paint them selenite grey, which is Mercedes grey, same as the cab. They'll need to be sanded to about 320 grit at least, and then the primer, colour and clear coats in wet on wet application. There's no margin for error. All right, everything is back together, and I gotta say, I'm so happy with how this thing is all coming together. You know, the bar work and that is all bolted on. The canopy is now on. The guys at Mission Build, as always, just have done such a good job of that canopy, and the rear boxes, the guards, that just really turned the truck in from like an army truck kind of thing, like just that tray, just a flat tray, real industrial kind of looking, to not a tourer, but like something capable of what I need it for, which is really exciting. It just looks good. So I'm stoked with that. Thank you, Mission Built. The seats inside, like to have this interior, you know, when I first got this truck, it was a truck. It was a dirty old truck with 35 years worth of dirt and grime and stories in it. And I think I said that in one of my episodes when I was digging it out, and me and Opie were finding money in here and pens and all sorts of stuff. And now, you know, the floor's been painted, you know, like we cut the floor out, we welded in new panels, everything was spotless. We then cleaned it and painted it and started from the ground up basically. So all this stuff from car builders, your marine carpet, the 2 layers of insulation, the 4-way stretch carpet, that stuff has been absolutely amazing inside the cab here. It just looks like a new car. It's really cool. This 4-way stretch carpet, like I said that in this episode, I've never used it before, but it's so forgiving. Like it really hides, not that I made any mistakes, but it really hides like any of your imperfections, and it's easy to use. And you use their car builders spray on adhesive. Make sure you use that one because it's better than all the other ones I had. And it just works so well together. So yeah, the interior's come up a treat. Ronnie from Brondles Sew & Co, I've been meaning to say that, he did these seats for me, and he's done them in it looks like leather, and it looks really retro, which I like. Like I chose to have these lines in here, kind of like not a hot rod, but like an old classic. And, you know, he's done the door cards to match, but it's actually in like a marine grade vinyl. So it's going to be really resistant to the UV, against scratches. It's just going to be really hard wearing, and that's why we've chosen it. And what else? All the bar work and stuff, again, Mission Built helped me out where they could there, but that was so much fun fabricating that, mostly myself. And I'm really happy with how it all came out. There's still a lot more to go, and that's going to be another episode, but I think I'll build all that and I'll film it, but then I want to take this thing out bush, go on an adventure and take you guys along for the first ride, and we'll talk about, and I'll walk you through, because basically I have to fit out the canopy. I'm going to do the full drawer system, put the fridge in there, the freezer in there, the power setup, all that stuff, and then possibly build my boat loading racks. So when we're out in the bush and we're using it, I'll walk you through it and I'll explain how I built it and why. After so many different variations I've done over the years, why I've come to what I'm going to build in this, because I'm pretty excited about building it. I've put a lot of thought into it. Car builders have just been exceptional. Like I said, all this interior stuff, But their texture coating, the Car Builders TXT 2K, has just been, I've used it everywhere. And like on everything, the bar work, the ladders up the side, the rack on the top, the snorkel, the front bar, the guards that I've got my feet on right now, the wheels, I sanded back the Hutchinson rims and sprayed the wheels, the rear bar, the tray, the boxes, the rear guards, it's on the canopy, it's under the it's on the chassis and everything. Like, it is everywhere. And it's just been such a good quality product. Like everything with paint, I'm no expert, but well, like everything in general, when you're building, when you're doing this kind of thing, it's all in the preparation. So make sure you take your time to sand everything back, give it that right clean with the wax and grease remover, like follow the instructions, do it properly, and then choose a good quality product like the Car Builders gear, and it won't let you down. Like, this is going to be in the bush, this is going to live in the bush, and it's not going to let me or anyone else down. So thank you, Car Builders, for making such good gear. What I want to show you guys is I sprayed the tray with, and a few other things with their gun, and it's a good gun. Like, it has its purpose, and I said that in this episode. But I want to show you the difference between what I did on the tray and what I did everywhere else. And there's a reason. Like, the tray is going to get quad bike ramps thrown up, like leaning on it and thrown on top, and quad bikes driven on it, and tinnies probably falling on it, and all that. And the rear bar as well I did with the same gun, because it gives a real thick coating, and I'm always backing into trees and stuff out in the bush. Whereas everything else, the canopy, all these bars here, the ladder and the rack up on the top and all that stuff, I did with the gravity fed gun, and I thinned it down about 10 to 15%, and it just came out a treat. It looks like it's been powder coated. It's so schmicko, but it's still got that same color, obviously. So they're the two different ways to do it, and it looks really good together. And to me, they both have their purposes. So I'm wrapped. I can't wait to get this thing out in the bush. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're all enjoying it. Like, I've filmed everything, and you know, this episode itself went from like when I laid it all out, it's like an hour and a half long just with all the footage, and then you just cut it right down to what it ended up being. So I can't, like, it'd be too boring if I sat there and explained every single thing I did, and like how I cut this and why I did it and what settings the welder were on and all that stuff. All the info's there, but you know, you got to make content that the majority of people can sit there and actually enjoy. So that's why it ended up the way it did. But yeah. We're getting close, guys. No, this time we actually are getting close. Yeah, I've just got to do the canopy fit out. No, actually, there's still a lot. Okay, so I've got to get some more gear from Mog Central. This window mechanism inside the door has sheared, and so it won't go up and down. It's rattling around. So I'm going to put new mechanisms in both the doors. I have an oil leak in the transmission, I think. And I need to get that sorted ASAP, but I'm still trying to diagnose where exactly it is. There's a possibility that it's in the torque tube, which is a massive job, and then ends up being like, while you're in there, you replace all these other things, which is going to be super expensive. But if that's the case, Cameron and I from Locked and Lifted will pull both the Unimogs apart and do them both at the same time. That's the other one. Thank you, Cameron, for being a legend, for just like dropping in and helping me all the time. Such a good bloke. Get over there and check out their stuff on social media, on Instagram and on YouTube. That's Locked and Lifted. What else do I need to do? There's just lots of, like, I've got a list. There's just lots of little things, like the old trucks, you know, like the windscreen wiper bottle has a leaky valve in it, so it won't hold water. I think I just need to get an O-ring. That's easy. There's just so many little jobs like that. And the fuel tank, one of the fuel tanks has corrosion in it, which I discovered when I was trying to work out that fuel and air issue, which is a good thing, right? So it's got a lot of corrosion in there, so I've turned off that gate valve, so I'm not using it, but I need to fill that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fill that with vinegar, let it sit for like maybe overnight, and flip it over, let it sit the other side overnight, so you know you're not using a shitload of vinegar, and that should kill it. Then give it a good wash out, and then that's good. So there's just lots of stuff like that I still have to do, but the major jobs are the canopy fit out. I'm going to fit the rooftop tent, so a lot of stuff coming from Adventure Concepts, and I have to, and then I've got to build these racks on the back, because they're also going to take my awning. It's all up in here, this plan of how this is all going to work. But yeah, I've got to build a rack which is going to have a winch mounted in it to pull the tinny up. It's also going to mount the spare tyre, the outboard motor on a swing away arm, and yeah, the awning. Not much, eh? See you all next time.